My hair. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to go over the Madcap Laughs by Syd Barret. So, this is honestly one of my favourite albums. It's not top 50. It's probably not even top 60, but it is amazing. When it comes to Syd Barret, I would rather listen to this one, but we'll get into that. I did not know how to start this video. I don't know. So, our story begins in Cambridge. I don't know the whole story, it's a really sad but interesting story, and you should look up someone else's video. So stay here for mine, please, and subscribe for more, but go and watch a really critical or a more in-depth version of the story, because it's important and it is a really sad story. But Syd Barret grew up in Cambridge, and he would meet Roger Waters, Nick Mason, Richard Wright, and they would form Pink Floyd and come out with this album. Now, this album, obviously Pink Floyd's first album from 1967, they were working on this in the same studio at the same time as the Beatles were working on Sgt. Pepper's. Now, both albums are credited as psychedelic in nature, but I'd say this is incredibly more psychedelic. And I think this is one of the greatest albums of all time. This is top 50. This is probably even top 30. But on this album, Syd Barret has most of the writing credits and sings lead vocals. And it's just a lot of Syd Barret's writing comes from old British folk tales and old British legends from like the medieval era, such as the songs like The Gnome and The Scarecrow, Lucifer Sam, The Siam Cat, which is, again, it's from an old British folk tale. And the only one that's not really is Chapter 24, which is from a Chinese literature book that Syd was reading. But point is, I bring this up, so Syd Barret hated being famous. He really didn't like it. And when people approached him in the street, just did not gel with it at all. So, that obviously went against the rest of the band, who wanted this fame and money. So unfortunately, that turned him to drugs. And because he was getting famous, he had made more connections with drug dealers, and you know how it goes. Unfortunately, it progressed and progressed and progressed, and Syd Barret ended up taking, I forget what the drug is called, but it's 10 times stronger than LSD. At one point, his girlfriend found Syd just passed out on the street corner, obviously just dead out of his mind. And it's a really sad story because Syd Barret is incredibly talented. His writing skills on this album is just flawless. And obviously the band, they couldn't keep him around, so they had made friends with a man called David Gilmour, who you may have heard of if you're a Pink Floyd fan. And they had slowly started taking David to gigs instead of Syd Barret. Because sometimes they'd be playing live on stage and Syd Barret would be jamming out all normal, and then he'd stop playing and turn away from the crowd, have his back to the crowd, not playing or doing anything. So David Gilmour started coming in and taking over when Syd didn't want to play. But obviously that kind of strenuous relationship couldn't last. Now I've heard that Syd agreed to leave the band, and I've heard that they kicked him out. I believe he did agree to eventually leave the band. But they wanted one last song from Syd. And one of the most beautiful songs you will ever listen to is the closing track off this album, Jug Band Blues. It's the lyrics, the song is about the band and how they're replacing him, You brought me here in these red shoes, and it even includes the lyrics, who's going to be writing this song? And it's just such a heartfelt and beautiful song. I love there's a big band orchestral moment in the song that builds up and up and up. Sorry everyone, I had to cut. It just builds up and up and up, and then it just dies, it just stops. And then it just slowly comes in with this acoustic guitar. And who is the queen, or something like that. It's just such a beautiful song. But then they wanted Roger Waters and David Gilmour. After Syd had left the band, they wanted him to have something to go on. They didn't want him to just be kicked off and live like a bum sort of thing. So they pushed him to make a solo career and have some solo albums. And Syd, at this point, had wanted to have some albums himself. Another thing is that Syd grew up. Syd loved music. Syd was a music freak. He absolutely loved it. He loved music, he loved drawing, he loved all of it. And in the beginning, in Pink Floyd's beginning, he was all for it. You know, absolutely adored everything about it. And then when the fame, the drugs, and he had some mental health issues, and they believe it was schizophrenia, but they are uncertain. When all this came in, he lost interest in all of it. And it's really unfortunate because the album we're going to talk about today, I promise, is the Madcap Laughs, which is just amazing. You know, so this was his first one. So let's get into that. I cut that off because I could talk about Syd Barret for days. But anyway, the looks of this bad boy. I mean, so great album cover, very weird and psychedelic. And same with the back with the naked lady. But it's the gatefold. This has one of the best gatefolds ever. And if you haven't seen this gatefold before, you're about to have your mind blown. We have... that is so psychedelic. Like so 60s and just like... Ow, I hit myself. Oh, that's just so weird. And with the baby and all of Syd's weird... pose, it's just so, it's crazy. I do love it. And then we have the Harvest Records label. Oops, nothing to really, I mean, besides the amazing gatefold, which I'll show you again, not much really there. But yeah, let's talk about the songs on this album. So, just quickly, I said that I'd rather listen to this one. Now it's a compilation album of what they perceive as his best songs. And the reason why I recommend this one, if you're going to pick a Syd Barret album up, because it has this gatefold, and this goes over the whole story of Syd Barret. It's really, really good. It's a really good read. And it's a very, very cool album to have. But because it's just a compilation album, and I want these deep dive videos to be on a full album, I thought I'd do his first one. So it starts with Terrapin, which is a beautiful song. Something, and across the whole album, Syd Barret's guitar work it's very simple, but it's also very complex. And I know that doesn't make sense, but when you listen to this stuff, it will make sense. It's flawless. He manages to make an acoustic guitar track sound like something Prince would do on an electric guitar. So it's no good trying to... A great song, no good trying. Love You is amazing. No Man's Land is fantastic. And my favourite Syd Barret song is Dark Globe, which is also on that other one I threw over there. But on the other one, it's called Wouldn't You Miss Me? But essentially, amazing, amazing lyrics. And the chorus, Syd is just screaming, you know, wouldn't you miss me? Wouldn't you miss me at all? And it's very harrowing. I can never say that word. Harrowing. And it really hits you. It hits you in here. Just amazing. Here I Go is another great one. Octopus. Now, Octopus is one of the LSD or stronger drug songs where there's a lot of weird and wacky lyrics in it. But my favourite one is the Madcap. Madcap laughs at the man on the border. Hey, ho, up the Talbot. Let's see blue and we some grey. I'll never put you. It's really, really catchy, and I love his singing. And there's a few different takes. The take you hear on this album is different than the Opal album I was showing you. Golden Hair is amazing. Long gone, she's long, long gone. It's amazing. She Took a Long Cold Look at Me is a great song. And he talks about, sings about picking up a girl and dating this woman who doesn't actually like his music. She doesn't like the same music as me. It's a really great song. Feel, If It's In You, and Late Night. I believe it's Feel, where Syd Barret tries this really high note and fails. There's a lot of mistakes throughout this work because Syd Barret was failing mentally and physically at this point. He tries this high and he doesn't get it a few times. And what I love is they left in all the mistakes and the what are they called? It's called the production. You can hear the people who are producing it talking to him, and it's very raw. It's not been like they've not tried to make him sound okay. It's very raw and it's very broken and it's very honest the way it sounds. I love it. And Late Night is a great closing track. But you should know that She Took a Long Cold Look at Me and Feel, they all sort of connect together into the 7-minute piece. Now, I think this is something that, if you're a fan of Pink Floyd, which I am, it's also something you need to listen to, as well as his second and final studio album, Barret, which is a great album. This album is a much more complete unit. This much more put together, and it's more of a full studio release album, whereas this one's a bit more cobbled together. But yeah, in conclusion, so this is, I meant to say this at the beginning, this is a new series I'm going to do every so often called Deep Dive. Obviously the title's not original, but I want to take an album from an artist that I haven't covered yet and go full in. Just, if I know a lot like this, I talk about, just really get in there, if that makes sense. So the story, after the release of this album, Pink Floyd wouldn't hear from him. Syd just fell off the map completely. And then in 1975, when Pink Floyd were recording, or it might be 74 actually, I think I got my Pink Floyd facts wrong, but when they were recording Wish You Were Here, which was written about Syd Barret is the crazy diamond. Pardon me, sorry. Syd Barret is the crazy diamond. And Syd showed up to the studio and he was just, so if I show you a picture of Syd, there, it's not like, there's a picture of Syd. Yeah, he'd lost, all his hair was gone. He was pretty much bald. And he was like me, he was fat, he was really chubby. And just they didn't know it was Syd. He looked so different, they had no idea it was him. Rick White is even, I can't say the word. Rick Wright is even quoted as saying, who was this in the studio? And they were all just flabbergasted when they realised it was Syd Barret. The legend or the story goes that someone had tried to coax Syd Barret into a recording booth and tried to make some new music with him. But apparently it was so bad that they destroyed the tapes. And Syd Barret would have a house, I believe he lived with his sister in Cambridge, until the day in 2006 that he unfortunately passed away. But yeah, Syd Barret's story is very unfortunate, but also very, it tells you, man. I mean, this was late 60s, early 70s, and back then they didn't have a clue about mental health or drugs, or they knew very little about it. And unfortunately, even today, I mean, I've never taken a drug in my life, but I know that people with addiction still suffer, and there's not a lot, it hasn't progressed that much better, unfortunately, especially with mental health. I mean, I live in the UK, and mental health services are terrible, absolutely terrible. Anyway, it is a really amazing listen, and I recommend that you check out this album, or, well, check out any of the ones I've talked about, but definitely check out his first album. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next time. Take care, everyone.